All right, all right. Welcome to day three of our three-part series where we're unveiling the Shelf to Success framework and really looking at how to unlock the hidden power of your published book. Right. So this series has basically been, any authors out there who have written a book, whether that book is a year old, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, as long as the book is evergreen, as we've been defining throughout this conversation, evergreen being a book that is still as valuable today as it was when you initially wrote it. If that's you, then let's get dialed in for part three of our series here today. So, hey, someone just messaged Joel. I see LinkedIn user, so I don't know who from with the software that I'm using here, StreamYard. I'm not able to see who actually posted that. So if you want to drop your name, that'd be great. But thank you for being here today and kind of like joining in on the conversation. With that being said, let's make this engaging. I'm in a different space today. I am home. I have my little lady is sick today, unfortunately. So I'm home taking care of her. Got the Bernese Mountain Dog, who's also not feeling well as well. Hey Julian, what's up, man? Thank you for joining in. Yeah, so I'm home doing this third session from here. But look, we're still gonna bring the fire. We're still gonna bring all the value as if we were doing this from my office. So we're going to dive in. This is going to be a jam-packed session. It's going to be about 20 minutes. I'm going to try to kind of stay to that time frame. Hopefully, you've allocated at least 30 minutes for any questions that you may have as well. But we're going to be, again, unveiling the Shelf to Success framework, which is so unlocking the hidden power of your published book. Okay. Now let me just chime in, check in with the team, make sure everything is good. And actually, while I'm giving a few more seconds here, let's uh let's make sure for today's session, if you're an author, okay, I'm gonna be actually pulling up the blueprint of the Shelf to Success framework with projections. And if you want to engage, as I go through, I'm going to go through the whole blueprint first with the projections, with the numbers and the prices built in, and then after I go through that, if you want to engage and we could insert your numbers into the framework, we'll actually be able to see what's possible for you, your book, and your business. Okay. So that is something I'm putting out there. If you're willing to engage with me, that'd be fantastic. That would probably be about like 10 minutes from now. Let's dive in. So, okay, so just like we've been talking over the last 3 days, kind of the elephant in the room, the question either you've been asking yourself out loud or asking out loud to your mentors, your coaches, your publicists, or whoever, or it's been a question that you've been wondering and pondering within your own kind of like the security of your own mind and the comfort of your own mind. Is your book dead? Right. This is the book that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, whether that's a year ago, 5 years ago, and you know that your book is evergreen, meaning it has tremendous value. It can make an impact. It could change lives. It could potentially save lives today, as well as when you written it, a year ago, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ago. And that's the evergreen book. And you're wondering, is your book dead? You know that it still has value, but it's gone through that life cycle that we talked about in day one, and you've tried a number of different things to try to kind of like re-energize it and get more sales, get it into the hands of your ideal customers, but nothing has worked. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. We spent the first 2 days kind of talking about high level of the challenges that authors face. The second day, we went into the objectives. The first day, we kind of talked about the objectives as well of the Shelf to Success framework and how it helps to solve each of those challenges. And then today, in day three, we're going to go into the actual framework itself. So I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between different screens. As I go through this, again, just like yesterday, If any of these objectives resonate with you, if any of these objectives have been a challenge that you've had with your book, go ahead and drop the number of the objective. So whether it's objective 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, it is something that you've been struggling with, go ahead and drop that number in the chat. All right. So objective number 1, like we talked about with the Shelf to Success framework, is leveraging your book to double, triple, or quadruple, or even more your email list growth, right? So that is the first objective. As we saw yesterday, we looked at a client of ours. Here's what we were able to help this client accomplish with the Shelf to Success framework. You can see 8,308 individuals added to this client's email list, helping to build that tribe, helping to grow his email list. So now let me see if I can swap screens here. Let me move this. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. I think you guys can see that. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so now looking, we're going to be bouncing back and forth between, this is the actual blueprint of the Shelf to Success framework, and I'm going to be zooming in a bit here. So if we look at this client that we just talked about, we just looked at, we had 17,809 individuals land on the first page of the framework, right? Land on the first page of the funnel. Out of those 17,809 individuals, we had 8,308 take action. That means they provided name, email, phone number potentially, and they got on this client's email list, converting at a 47% conversion rate. Okay, so now if we go back to here, how does that look in terms of the framework? I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So this first step, that first page in the Shelf to Success framework, the funnel, is this step here. And this is where the first objective is met, where we're getting that email list to start to grow. We're starting to acquire that information to grow the email list. We expect roughly 45% conversion rate with this first step, meaning for every 100 individuals that land on this first step, 45 of them will provide that name, email, and potentially phone number. Okay, that is the first objective of the Shelf to Success framework, as we see with this client here. Now moving on to the second objective, of course, is to sell more copies of your book. Okay, and then and as well as objective number 3 is to break even. So now that those two kind of go hand in hand. You're selling more copies of your book and you're breaking even in that process, meaning the 17,809 individuals that landed on this first step, there was a cost for that. Most likely, if we're running ads, paid media, there's a cost to drive that traffic to this first step, and we want to recoup that cost in this third objective by selling more copies of your book, which then allows us to break even. In this case, with this client, you can see we were able to sell 2,771 copies of his book, which is a 15.56% conversion rate, which generated almost $35,000 in revenue. Okay, so how does that look like in the blueprint? And let me know if hopefully I'm not going too fast. I know we're getting, this has kind of been built up. So if you didn't watch day 1 and day 2, this may be moving a little bit fast for you. If you did watch day 1 and 2, this is kind of like part of what I'm showing with the slides is a recap of day 1 and day 2. And then day 3 is really about this framework, this blueprint. But I'm just connecting the dots of what we saw on day 1, day 2, and now how does that look in terms of the actual framework. So if you have any questions as I'm going through this, I know I'm going a little bit fast. We're 9 minutes in. Let me know if you do have any questions. Okay, so that basically objective 1, objective 2, and objective 3 are all, if done right, are all being accomplished. Awesome, Julian, thanks. So all three objectives are being accomplished with this first step of the framework. Okay, you're getting their email list, you're getting their email, you're getting their name, you're potentially getting their phone number. They're then whipping out their wallet and becoming a customer by purchasing your book, which allows us to break even in that process, right? We expect about a 12% conversion rate in terms of individuals getting the book. We expect a 12% conversion rate at this point. Okay, so for every 100 that lands on this first step, 45 of them get added to your email list. 12 of those ends up purchasing the book. Okay. This allows us to break even. Ideally, if structured the right way, we would break even at this point, which then leads us to objectives 4 and 5. Okay, so objective 4, this is front end. Right now, this is still within the framework, which is the blueprint I'm going to bring back up. Still within the framework, we now have, they've gone through those steps that I just referenced. They've gone on your email list, have become a customer, whipped out their wallet, paid you money for value exchange. Now what happens next? Well, through the framework, what we would do is we would present them with more offers. We would present them with your courses, your products, your services. As I mentioned yesterday on day 2, the client, the case study that we're looking at, what we presented those individuals with were with supplements. Okay, so this is a way to produce more revenue through the Shelf to Success framework. Because if we break even from between step 1, objective 1, objective 2, objective 3, we break even on objective 3. That means any action that happens directly through the funnel now is profit, right? Minus any shipping costs or anything like that. Okay. So when we look at that client from that we've been looking at over the last 2 days, you can see here we had a $259 additional sales, right? Again, this is directly through the framework, which is a 10% conversion rate, generating about $12,000 more revenue. Again, this is a supplement, so there's shipping and there's hard costs would relate to that. But imagine if this was a digital course, right? Imagine if this was a membership. Imagine if this was a group coaching program, right? The possibilities are endless in terms of what you could do here, and in terms of like your kind of like your what's the hard cost in terms of your hard costs, right? If it's something that's digital, your hard cost is significantly less versus something you have to ship, like a supplement. Okay, and then from here, not you don't stop there. Like we looked at yesterday, you then present them, if they do take you up on that offer on OTO1, which OTO1 we talked about is one-time offer. That's the acronym, one-time offer, which is another word is upsell. If they do take you up on OTO1, in this case 259 individuals did, then you present them with another one-time offer or second upsell, which is we had 69 individuals out of the 259. We had 69 individuals take us up on that additional offer. 11% conversion rate, generating almost $9,000 in additional sales for this client. So now, if we go back to the framework, right? Objective 4 is basically, this is another way to think about objective 4 is profit. How do you generate more revenue for your business? Because of course, breaking even is great because you're growing your email list, which is the main objective of the Shelf to Success framework. And then breaking even in the process is absolutely like that's the trifecta, if you will. And then now there's everything else is just bonus, right? It's basically profit revenue that's coming into your business. And this is where we get into the back end of the framework, which is OTO1. OTO1 was that first OTO that I showed you with that client, 259 additional sales of the supplement. We expect a 10% conversion rate on average. It could be higher. It could be anywhere between 7 to 10%. But we've seen higher as well. And then from there, we had 69 individuals go to OTO2, which we saw almost 11%. If I remember correctly, we saw almost 11%. 11% conversion rate there. Again, there we expect somewhere between a 7 to 10% conversion rate. Okay. Now, pricing can vary as they're going through. It depends on what the cost of your book, whether it's a hardcover, soft cover, in terms of your shipping, handling, to print the book. That will define the cost on this first step. Um, and then in terms of like what you're selling on OTO1 and OTO2, whether it's a physical product, digital product, membership, subscription, the prices can vary. But there is a typical price range that we aim for success to hit those conversion rates that I talked about, the 7 to 10% on OTO1, and then the 7 to 10% on OTO2. The other thing you could do, depending on the price point of OTO2, we could also present them with a downsell to kind of break up the payment, depending on the price of OTO2. Okay, and that is essentially the framework. Now, before we go into objective number 5, any questions on any of this, or anyone willing, any brave souls out there willing to kind of jump in? I know we got about 4 minutes left. Anyone willing to jump in and kind of give me the prices, and then I could plug those in. So if we look at, oh, I didn't run the simulation. Let me run the simulation really quickly. Okay, cool. So I just ran the simulation. You can see, I won't go through all of these, but actually one of the most important ones here is cost per acquisition. So that is the cost. How much is it costing to get, in this case, this client, how much is it costing to get the 8,308 individuals for each individual? How much is it costing? In this simulation, it's costing about $10.03 to get those individuals. Okay. Then from there, so $10.03 times 8,000 individuals, you're looking at, what was that? Shoot, I'm trying to do the quick math. But anyway, you can do the math on that. Let's see. I have a website with all my products. What makes this different? Okay, so great question. So the question is, let me pop this up. Okay, so the question is, I have a website with all my products. What makes this different? The answer to that question is that there's a difference between a website and a funnel, and I'm probably going to do some lunch and learns specifically related to that. But really quickly, the big difference, which you'll get right away, is a website has a lot of distractions. Your website has a lot of noise, right? There's the about page, there's the home page, there's this product page, there's services, there's contact us. There's all these actions. Think of each thing that someone can click on as a call to action, right? Because each one of those things is something that can attract their eye and they can kind of start clicking. So if you ever look at your Google Analytics for your website, it's very hard to tell where did someone go first, second, third, right? Because everyone is going somewhere else. Whereas with a framework, once you build out a framework, like we're showing specifically the Shelf to Success framework, but there's hundreds of other frameworks. With a framework, it is very focused, right? You're driving the traffic, the visitors, we're driving them to a specific page, this first page that I showed you, and they only have 2 choices. Either they're going to take you up on the one call to action, and each call to action presents itself one at a time. So the first call to action is name, email, phone number, potential phone number. Second call to action is to get the book. And then from there, if they take you up on that call to action, then they see OTO1 and then they see OTO2. So you're guiding them along a specific strategic path that you've defined versus your website where they could kind of, take their own journey. Okay. Which we know with whether attention span or distraction or just life, people can land on your site, they start clicking around, something pops up on their Facebook, Instagram, social media, and then boom, they're down a whole different path. So you need to kind of guide them along really quickly before they get distracted by life. So that's a quick answer to that question. Great question. Does that answer the question? Does that make sense? Any other questions? I don't think we'll have time to go through specifically plugging in anyone's numbers. Maybe I'll do a separate session for that. But kind of going back to here, and one thing I do have to be careful with is comparing these numbers with this client, right? Because the in terms of the cost per, in this example, the cost per acquisition is $10.03. Doesn't mean it's always $10.03 for every client. Awesome. The person, individual said yes. Yeah, I'm assuming maybe it's Julian. I'm not sure if it's somebody else, but whoever it is, I don't know why StreamYard is not showing me the name, but thank you for engaging and asking that question. But kind of going back, looking at these numbers here, and I know we had 20 minutes, so I want to kind of go through these real quick. The cost per acquisition in this scenario is $10.03. The return on ad spend, ROAS, return on ad spend, that's what that stands for, is $3.2, which is great, especially if it's only digital content, right? If it's only if you don't have a lot of hard costs, a 3.2 or 4x is a really good return on your investment. It's almost like you're putting $1 in and you're getting $3.21 out. So if you're putting $1 in and getting $3.21 out, how many dollars would you put in? That's a question to whoever's watching, right? So if you're putting $1 in to an investment and you're getting $3.21 back, how many dollar bills would you put in? And that actually reminds me of the question that I asked yesterday, which Casey, if you can remind me what that question was. I know I asked the question yesterday that I said I would reveal the answer to today, but for some reason right now I'm spacing out on that. So Casey, if you could let me know what that question was. Okay, revenue per month, we're looking at $10,430. Profit $2,973. After I do have expenses, I have a whole expense category here, kind of like shipping for the book, all that kind of stuff. So again, doesn't necessarily, these numbers may not be super sexy, $2,973 here, but in terms of ad spend, what I have projected here is $1,125 per month. So you're putting in $1,125 per month. You're making profit-wise $2,973. But keep in mind, the main objective of the Shelf to Success framework is to grow your email list. Okay. So, and revenue-wise, yearly $126,000. And then profit $36,759. So this is $36,759 of profit. Again, everyone's math is going to be different, a hard cost. And I see another question here that I'm going to answer in a second. But we're breaking even. You're selling more copies of your book. You're getting into the hand of more individuals. You're growing your email list while rejuvenating a book that you wrote potentially years ago, and you're bringing in more revenue into your business. Okay, so the question is, does that include agency fee inside of the expenses? That's a great question, Julian. It does not include, if you're getting someone to build this framework or any framework for you, it does not include the cost of the build, right? But if you think about long-term strategy, and actually that's a great question, Julian. I almost forgot objective number 5. So that actually leads us right into, so thank you for asking that question. It leads us right into objective number 5. This Shelf to Success framework is not intended to be your $1 million 10, 2 comma club. If you're familiar with ClickFunnels, your 2 comma club or 2 comma club X award. Now, is it possible? Yeah. If you, obviously, if you, from the question I just asked, if you're you're investing $1 and you're making $3, how many dollars are you going to put in? The answer is unlimited amount of dollars, right? So yeah, sure, you could invest a lot to get to a point where this framework has generated $1 million for you. But really, the purpose of this framework, again, I want to really stress this, is to grow your list, then sell more copies of your book because that has value, right? And you're selling it to your ideal customers, which is a way of kind of like connecting with them, giving them value, building that know, like, and trust. And then breaking even while you're doing that, but because you've gotten them onto your email list, now you start to nurture them, whether that's a week later, a month later, 6 months later, a year later. You're building that relationship, which leads to objective number 5, which is the back end. This framework is all about the front end. The front end is not where you make your money, right? It's not where you see significant revenue in your business. It's on the back end is where you see the significant revenue. So to answer your question, Julian, yeah, this framework in terms of ROI, return on investment, if you're having someone build this for you, is not going to be seen right away. The return on investment is going to be seen more on the back end, right? By having your courses, your products, and your services, which in this case are higher ticket, ideally higher ticket courses, ticket products, higher ticket services, not the same core, ideally not the same courses, products, and services that are inside the framework, because those would be lower ticket, right? Because you're still building that relationship there, whereas versus here on objective 5, whether it's a week later, a month later, a year later, you've built that relationship, know, like, and trust, where you could then take that customer who did purchase from you from the Shelf to Success framework and get them to purchase again. The beauty of that is you're not investing any additional you're not investing any additional money in order to acquire that customer, because you already did do that in the first in the Shelf to Success framework, and you broke even in that process. Does that make sense? Yeah, great question, Julian. And that kind of really segued into objective number 5, which I almost forgot to cover. All right, so questions. So any questions on this? So we're 26 minutes in. Objective 5, return investment. Yes. Okay, awesome. Cool. So yeah, so hopefully kind of like to really summarize this. I know we covered a lot. If you watch day 1, day 2, and day 3, it's really going to kind of crystallize, see the full picture of how this whole thing works. But at the end of the day, to kind of summarize all of this, and thank you again, Julian, and I'm going to make sure to add that going forward. The Shelf to Success framework is your front end framework, right? And I forget the quote exactly, but like amateurs, it's something like amateurs focus on the front end, experts focus on the back end. You need a front end framework because it's a way that you're going to attract your prospects, get them onto your email list, grow your email list, ideally break even in the process of doing that and generating some revenue through that, right? But then on the back end, once you've grown that email list, you're nurturing them. On the back end, you sell them into your live events, into your workshops, into your subscription program, into your courses, your products, your services, right? Because now if you've been in this space, online space, for any period of time, you know that growing your email list, and I kind of touched upon this in day 1, just like any Mr. Beast or any micro influencers, is because they've built a tribe, they've built a community, they've built that know, like, and trust. And whenever they launch anything, it just has a higher likelihood to take off, right? And I talked about day 1, walking into Target and seeing Mr. Beast like chocolate bars, right? Like the first thing as I walked into this Target was Mr. Beast chocolate bars, which is like just insane, right? And that's because he has 200 million followers on YouTube, and he's taken that to expand out his platform. Okay. Yeah. So the question is, is the funnel objective is to 1, break even, 2, grow the pond. It would require nurturing campaign strategy, right? No. So the Shelf to Success framework, specifically the one we're talking about today, most funnels, most frameworks work the same way. It should be to, but specifically for this one, grow your email list. That's the first objective. Okay. The second objective is to sell more copies of your book. The third objective is to break even in that process. So meaning that step 1 and 2, the work that's been done there, everything that's been done there, it's basically the cost has been handled, right? To grow your email list, to sell more copies of your book, to ship out the book, everything, all the costs related to the ads that you're running, all of the costs has been handled in objectives 1 and 2 and 3, and you break even. After that, now you have your audience. You're building that pond or growing that pond, like the analogy you're using. You are now nurturing that pond, right, over the next week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, to then present them with. There's Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary Vaynerchuk has a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. So you now have your pond, which you control now because they're on your email list inside of MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, and you're nurturing them by sending them out emails and text messages that are entertaining, inspiring, educating, which is the jab, 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 and then periodically right hook, which is when you're presenting them a course, a program, a service, you name it. Okay. And that is the entire picture, right? The Shelf to Success framework, this front end offer accomplishes the first 4 objectives, which is the list, selling more copies of your book, breaking even, and selling, having some profit come out of that by selling some of your courses and products inside of this first funnel, the front end funnel. And then objective number 5 is done with a second funnel, with your back end funnel, after you've done the jab, 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 right hook. Awesome. I got the thumbs up, which is perfect. All right. We are 31 minutes in. That was the question that I was just answering. Hopefully that's crystal clear. Again, I don't know if you were able to watch day 1 and day 2. I know I went really fast, trying to keep these as condensed as possible because Lord knows I could talk about funnels and frameworks for days. But yeah, hopefully that's crystal clear. Any other questions before we jump off here, because we are over time? If you have questions, if you're watching this on the recap or the replay, feel free to engage with any of the questions that I brought up throughout this conversation, whether it was from day 1, day 2, day 3. If you're interested in learning more and seeing like how this framework or any potential framework can work for your business, I think Casey is going to drop a link below. You could schedule a strategy call with me so we could talk about like what framework. If again, specifically for authors, we have a framework, Shelf to Success framework, that works great, as I showed. But we do have other frameworks that can work for other businesses as well. Challenges, webinars, automated webinars, you name it. So if you're interested, go ahead and click on the link that should be dropped at any moment here, and we could get on a call and see what's possible for you and your business. All right, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for engaging. We'll see you next week. I think we're going to try out a different time for next week, and we're going to try earlier in the morning, probably like 9:30-ish in the morning. We're trying to come up with a different name for it instead of lunch and learn, probably breakfast club or something cheesy like that. But we'll continue having these conversations, continue talking about these various types of frameworks, so that you get more exposure to understand like what's possible for your business. And again, the last couple of days we've been talking about authors, but course creators, entrepreneurs, coaches, you name it. There's a framework out there that can help you take your business to the next level. So stay engaged, follow, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.